I got 96 problems and the queen ain't one. Hit me.
Oh, fam. Yo, seamless. Yo, before we get into this segment, I just want to say, yo, rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Um, rest in peace to Pop Smoke. Rest in peace to Young Dolph. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to King Von. Rest in peace to Bernie Mac. Uh, did I say Kobe? We good.
You did
Let's
not
go.
say Kobe. I'm glad you said that. Rest in peace to Kobe. Rest in peace, my grandmama. Rest in peace, your
True.
grandmama.
True.
You know. Hassan, the producer side, rest in peace, any fallen soldiers. Rest in peace, my cousin Terjo, man. We still miss you. We still think about you. Who a lot of people are saying don't rest in peace, however, is is the queen. Look, you know, when we get this conversation, I said, I'll admit, I'll be vulnerable. I said, guys, I think it's distasteful to talk about the queen. I looked onto our producer's Instagram story, and he had on, we smoking Royal Pack tonight, is what he said, Dale.
Gotta love the diversity of perspective. Where else?
We smoking Royal Pack tonight is how my producer put it. But, you know, the sentiments that he shared are clearly are sentiments that have been widespread. There's been a lot of mixed receipt of how this news has come about. Miles Xavier, I was in the UK not so long ago, and I celebrated what the British call Jubilee Day. Okay, Jubilee Day is where we're all happy because it's the Queen. Bro,
Wait. We're all happy because it's the queen. What does that mean?
It means they celebrating the Queen, bro. That's what Jubilee Day is all about, bro.
Just 'cause she
And they don't
exists.
take these. They do not take these celebrations down until next Jubilee. Is what I understand. Is that they put up celebrations once a year, and those banners stay the year out. They love the Queen. The Brits love the Queen. So the Brits are heartbroken about it. They're mourning. 2 minutes of silence before meetings. They going through it. The same isn't shared internationally, however.
And no cap, there's definitely Brits who aren't feeling the love either. It's mixed, and I think coming from Chicago, not disrespecting the dead takes on a certain weight, right? Like there are consequences for that in this space. So I think having seen that, having come up in that, and just the way I was raised, I 1000% think it's important not to be disrespectful of the dead, right? But what does it say about your life if when you die, we can't talk about you? Because to mention a lot of what you was into could be termed as disrespect, right? We don't really want to get into all that.
No, we should. Let's get into it.
We should.
Let's get into it because the crux of it is what is not being spoken about. The crux of why people are torn by the death of the Queen is in what has not been spoken about. Right? There's a bit of a careless treatment of history when it comes to the monarch, what the manner in which they were able to acquire wealth, the wealth that they have now, what the monarch actually means, who's contributing to it. Granted, this is somebody's granny, okay? And you're speaking to somebody that loves his granny, okay? You speaking to somebody that loves his granny. So, you want to be respectful in that way because there are good people that are mourning and only know this woman as something positive and as a grandmother or a mother, or they only know the positive sides of this person's story. And a person's story has many positive, we live a life of different seasons. So she could have a very healthy, positive season, but we cannot disregard um, previous seasons, the seasons specifically that brought them to the wealth that they have. My dog agrees.
Speak on it.
Speak on it,
He
dog.
said that's right.
Can I get a hoo 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 from anybody that agrees?
Man, so man, thank you for being willing to take us there and to have this conversation. Um, she was human, right? And I think that speaks to a lot of what you were saying, right? People have different seasons in life; they grow, but I don't know how much growing she did, man. It's really interesting when you have somebody who is a human and that you want to respect as a human, but was also a part and at a big part, right? The most visible part in a lot of ways of a brutal empire with a brutal legacy, right? Um, and so while people celebrate her life, I think part of me resonates and identifies with people that look at that and go, y'all are celebrating our oppressor. Y'all are celebrating someone who has done great harm to us that hasn't been healed, right? Across the world, right? People in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, right? So and I don't know if there's any evidence that she's grown. I mean, you can look to her track record and she's the queen of this place that represents so many different people and has done so much up until very like into very recent times that to make those people's life harder, right? Like she fought for people not to get their independence from colonial rule, right? This and that's something she did in her life. So how do we make our peace with that?
When we get specific about the damage that has been done, right? In India alone, it is estimated that about trillion, $6 trillion was taken from India. The biggest crown jewels and diamonds that the Queen has are stolen from the culinary mines of Africa, of South Africa, are stolen from the mines of Bloemfontein, are stolen from the mines of India. So the most amount of wealth that the monarchy stands on comes from the exploitation of people. It does. There's no question about that. Specifically South Africa and India, because in South Africa there was the diamond mines and the gold rush. They formed these companies that pretty much had free labor and took trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, trillions with the T, and did the same thing in many parts of the world. If you look into the death and destruction that was at the hand of the Queen, can we see that first question again? So what does it mean for the price of VVS specifically? I mean, we'd have to get Johnny Dang to let us know about that, But there was a point in time where blood diamonds was something that we had spoken about, and hip hop wanted to move away from blood diamonds. Is they Jacob? Don't lie to me, man. Like, we were knowledgeable that at some part of the process, somebody had to suffer from it, and then we adjusted. But when it comes to the Commonwealth and when it comes to the Queen, and this is very interesting because, I'm a recipient of a Commonwealth scholarship, or was a recipient of a Commonwealth scholarship, but still, the wealth was built on the exploitation of brown people, of black and brown people. There's Biafra War is the same thing if you look into Nigeria, where between 1 to 3 million people lost their lives. 1 to 3 million people lost their lives in the Biafra War. That was largely in part caused by Britain's presence within the country and people wanting to split away from the state. We saw the same thing in how they broke up India over the course of a coffee break. India was carved up over the period of a lunch break. Billions of people were separated on a napkin over the course of a lunch break. There are still so many deeper, there's so many deeper things that exist in the history of the monarchy. And because people are not taught the proximity of that history, it seems like something long ago that happened and didn't that and was inconsequential. But that's not true. This stuff happened recently, and so the death of this woman um, brings that up.
Word, word. I mean, it forces people to either blindly say, "We loved you and rest in peace," and or to really examine who you were as a person, right? That's what happens when people pass. We think about their life, right? So when you think about the life of someone like Queen Elizabeth, she was a symbol, and she was a symbol for a lot of like willingly a symbol for a lot of horrible things, right? Like she adorned herself with jewels that were literally stolen from what's the Cullinan diamond? Come on, B.
The Cullinan diamond. Yo,
Like
can I ask our producer to pull up the Cullinan diamond, please? Look at this rock.
she wears the jewels that are literally stolen from other places, right? Her face is on the money that is printed due to colonization, right? Like, and then it's those things that are symbolic. It's her being the representation of this colonial power that was responsible for all the things you just outlined. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, that is fly. She got good taste, but come on now, that ain't right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
ain't right.
if you look at her crown jewel on her the crown jewel, it's a Cullinan diamond from Africa. Yeah, you're
So
right,
look,
Miles.
so look, bro. Like, when you're the symbol of the country that's doing all these things, that's robbing and pillaging, right? And then in your own business, right? Like, we could give an example. In the 1960s, she was she was holding meetings to try and make sure that the clerical staff for the royal family could continue to discriminate against ethnic minorities, right? So she was saying basically that no colored immigrants or foreigners could serve as in clerical roles, right? And in the 1970s, as the British government is instituting laws to ban discrimination, her office is fighting for to be exempt from those laws, right? So that she don't got to deal with no black and brown folks in her face.
Listen,
It's
if
it,
we're only, go ahead, please, please.
I was just saying it speaks to erasure. It speaks to the fact that Britain, in a lot of ways, has never wanted to deal with its history of robbing folks. You know what I'm saying? It's like a parolee that don't ever want to admit where he went for those years when they was in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know where you was. We know where you was at. We know what you did.
Wasn't
And
university or vacation either, bro.
yeah, university. Yeah, that's the one, right? And yo, it's been crazy to me to find out that America's this crazily racialized space, right? Like racism is seeped into the fabric of this country. And the same can be said for Britain. But we have a system of at least remembering that history. They are attacking it, right? They definitely want to remove that information from schools, and we've covered that on this show. But there is Black History Month, problematic as that is. There are Black Studies departments in universities, right? As incomplete as those curriculums may be. That doesn't exist in the same way in the UK. There's not the same opportunity to explore that history, and that's on purpose. And I think when someone like the Queen passes, it's important for us to look at this as an opportunity to say, we are not going to allow the continued erasure of this history. But in fact, we will grapple with our humanity and saying, yes, it's very difficult. We want to honor somebody because they were a human, period. But we also have to tell the truth about who they were. And sometimes that's ugly. And that ain't nobody's fault but whoever lived that life.
Yo, if they can do a documentary on Michael Jackson after he got killed and bring up two other allegations and have Oprah interview those people, then by golly, y'all can do the same thing on this, okay? Cancel. Let me.
Do you bring up Mike because they dress the same?
This the white glove. White glove, but like, not hey, like, hey, man, but hey, like, White glove.
Wave hand. I feel
Like wave hand. But Maz, Yemen is one of those countries too, that suffered at the hand of Britain's colonial rule. And you're right, that is a big issue that Brits don't want to be able to admit, is that they don't want to take accountability of their history. And I had many conversations with British people like, yo, what do they teach you in school about what happened between the 30s and between the 20s and the 60s? What was Britain, what is taught to you was happening during that time, and a lot of them say we don't learn that. We don't learn that. We learn about history within. I'm saying that's crazy because at that time, the British Empire was making as much as $14 million a day. $14 million a day participating in the triangular trade. It really does force us to be able to take into account history, and I don't think because of the history, I don't think celebrating the death of anybody is a great thing. However, if the death of somebody does invoke anger from people that feel as though they were impacted by the choices of the person that has passed, then it is well within their right to be able to grieve however they grieve, because they're grieving a whole different type of thing too. There's a whole different grief that comes within that. It's like the mother who weeps at the funeral, the mother who weeps at the courtroom of her killer's sentencing. You know what I mean? I'm not weeping for you, but I'm triggered about what has happened, and so you're part of that situation. Yo, Brits, go check your history, bro. Some crazy things were happening during that time. Y'all wouldn't believe it. go see what happened. It's kind of nuts.
Man, it is nuts, man. It is nuts, and so yeah, thank you for being willing to grapple with this with me. What can't get lost in all of this is that there's an ongoing energy crisis in the UK, right? While we're reporting on, the Queen's death, and there's 24-hour news cycles showing the highlight reels of her life, there's also people like dying, people not going to be able to pay their energy bills. I read that in the UK, one person dies every 50 minutes from an illness related to living in cold housing, right? So with the energy bills that folks are facing this winter, I think it's important to know that tradition is something that we all take part in, and it brings us together. And we should examine how we allow it to bring us together and what we are celebrating. But let's keep in mind the folks that are still with us, that we still might be able to help and reach out to. And finally, I'm flawed as hell. I got a lot of flaws. I'm a messed up person, man. You know what? And I hope that all the people that know me well and that know the things that are fucked up about me can, I hope that when I pass, those are the things that people lift up, and that my humanity can be preserved, and that the folks that grieve me can be allowed to do that. So in that same way, I ain't dissing nobody that's grieving the Queen. Let's just think about who we put our emotional energy into.
While we're thinking about the Queen, there's many other queens that we can think about.